And as we continue our coverage of the sad passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, we're joined by Rachel Bales from the Australian Monarchists League. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
And condolences.
Thank you. And, you know, it's condolences for the whole nation. This is something that really binds us together. I think a lot of people have been taken aback by the sadness they've felt and maybe didn't know how they'd feel. But it's almost like a communal grandmother has been lost overnight here in Australia.
Obviously, you know, in Australia, as in the UK, as in every part of the Commonwealth, there's different opinions, different political opinions, different opinions about the monarchy. How is it that she as an individual has managed to transcend that and we find ourselves in a moment like this sharing in grief? Yeah,
I mean, speaking of politics, the role of monarch is such a balancing act, isn't it? And over so many generations and so many decades, the Queen had that role that had to remain above, had to remain apolitical, had to balance different interests, different roles, different houses of parliament, different countries. And she's been able to manage that balancing act in such a distinguished way because it was always about service above self.
Was it something particular about her, in your view, that she brought to that?
I think it was her attention to others. It was that whenever she was in a room, whenever she met someone, and I'm sure it was the people around her, so well briefed, but she would always be so attentive to the person in front of her. She would want to know, where do you live, or who's your family, or what's brought you here today? And her focus on that other was able to bring her to that point of service above self for 70 years.
That's an extraordinary gift for someone to have on a country, an effect on a country on the opposite side of the world. Why do you think her influence was so strong here in Australia?
I think part of it is the Queen's commitment to visit Australia so many times. We know there were 16 royal tours, and sometimes it was the timing of that tour. It was the fact that she was the first reigning monarch to set foot on Australian soil at Farm Cove in Sydney. So it was the sense of becoming Queen. One of her first priorities was to see as many Australian people as possible in those months that she was here.
Do you think that she had a particular vision of what the Commonwealth would be over time as empire faded from memory and the world, you know, changed so much during her reign? Did she have a particular vision that has carried the idea through?
I think she did. I think as she presided over that shift from the former British Empire to the Commonwealth, the guiding vision was really that of family. And I think that was Queen Elizabeth II to a T. It's always been about the family. And so when she looks at the continent of Africa or Asian nations that are part of the Commonwealth, she sees that sense of equal respect and that we're all in it together as an equal family. And as head of the Commonwealth, that's the way she discharged her role.
And Charles, as King, what do you anticipate?
Well, the first thing I'd mention is that equal commitment to the Commonwealth. You know, he will be the next head of the Commonwealth, and that was decided by the heads of the Commonwealth. And he's got a very global perspective. So Australia will be very close to his heart, but also all the nations of the Commonwealth, and not just those that are monarchies. I think he's incredibly passionate about our natural environment. He's had projects in England about looking at how we can set up environments and cities and towns in a more sustainable fashion. We've got charities such as the Prince's Trust, which raises millions upon millions of every year for charities, including those that serve disadvantaged young people. So I think the Commonwealth, the environment, youth will be first in his heart.
And of course, he had those formative times here as a young man, going to school as well. So that connection for him, I'm sure, is very strong.
Yes.
Rachel Bales, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.